Hey, Christy Mattoon here. Let's see if this comes up. Christy Mattoon here. This is really exciting. One of these days I'm going to actually get this totally right and we won't have to fuss with this like I am. I just want to talk to you today a little bit about subconscious change. Subconscious change and how it all works in your system, how unplugging the neuroplasticity, how taking that apart can actually help you change your life. So that's what this is going to be about. I am excited to have you here with me. I'm excited to show you what this is, how this works and what it is all about. And we're going to get started right here. I'm going to transition you over to a PowerPoint. So we can see exactly what's going on. I think I missed the button right there, so let me go back and grab that real quick. Subconscious change is a huge deal, especially if you're locked inside of your own thought processes. So it's really important to have a good understanding of this. All right, so here we go. Let's start right here. So Mind Rewire is my company. I want you to take a look at that. What Mind Rewire is a way to actually get into your subconscious mind and help you relieve some of the subconscious stress that's going on in regards to issues, traumas, things that have happened in your life, problems that you might be having that are continually patterns going on. So we're going to take a look at how all of this works. So this is going to be part one. Part two is actually going to be on a whole brain state. We're going to take a little bit of a look at that so you'll understand that. But welcome to this masterclass. We're going to be here for probably about 45 minutes. I'm going to try and keep it down to that. I'm going to encourage you to grab a notebook and take some notes. This is a lot about subconscious mind and the effects that it can have on your life if it's left up to its own devices. This class is dedicated to my former self, a person that I didn't know, a person who struggled every day of her life because of a past that had nothing to do with her except that she lived in it. And I'll explain more of what that means. What it did was create an environment in my head that led me in circles for about the first 40 years of my life. And unfortunately for the people around me, it probably did them too. I'm going to be super transparent with my story in order to show you how strong thoughts and beliefs from the subconscious mind can be and what they can do if they are not in alignment with what you want in your life. All right, it's kind of the idea of having a blueprint and you think your life is supposed to follow this blueprint, but you never get to the things that you want to get to because it always gets derailed. Where does that come from? How does that happen? Okay, that's the subconscious mind talking to you. So whether you know what's causing your issues or not, it's the unknown that seems to hurt us the most. And I want you to see how a stronghold, and I'll explain what that is in just a second, known or unknown, can cause chaos and mayhem in your life. You may not have any idea what's going on or why it's happening. You're just living through the chaos and mayhem. You probably have consequences from these patterns and cycles that you just can't quite put your finger on. You just end up always with the consequences. So a stronghold is simply something that has a grip on your life and is causing negative effects. We don't usually relate a stronghold to something positive. It's usually something that you may have knowledge of or you may not, but either way you're seeing the consequences, and you'll hear examples of this as I tell my own story and even some stories of some of my clients. So some of the things that you're taught and believe about yourself as a child emerge into these strongholds. They may or may not have been horrible things or situations, but your take on it as a child gives you information that the mind or the brain actually holds on to that may or may not be true for you, the adult. So here's a situation for you. It's a story I heard about a kid years ago. And what her situation turned into for the adult was a huge phobia that literally stalled out this person's life. So picture a small child running around playing on a playground, having all kinds of fun. This is not a horrible situation. It's not a bad thing, right? She's having fun. There's a huge slide. She's a little bit scared of the slide, but she wants to go down it. So she finally gets brave, decides to go down the slide, climbs up to the top of it, gets ready to slide down, and just panics. right? It's high. She figures out she's scared. She goes into a little bit of, a little bit of a fit, trying to get herself to slide down this thing. They're encouraging her from the bottom of the slide. Still not a horrible issue. She starts sliding down the slide in a fit and a panic. At the bottom of the slide, there's a man standing there with his hand on the edge of the slide. And this arm is super, super hairy. What she locked onto was that hairy arm. As she went down the slide in this total panic, she locked onto that hairy arm. Guess what her phobia was? As she grew up, it turned into a phobia of hair. Now imagine in a psychologist's office trying to clear a phobia of hair. I don't even know. I just can't even imagine. And imagine this lady not being able to go out in public or be around people that had hair. Hair on their arms, a lot of hair on their face. She was fit to be tied. So, when you think about those kind of things, that wasn't a horrible situation, but it gave her an issue in her life that lasted her whole lifetime. So things that you see, hear, things that you lived through, things that they helped you form opinions and beliefs about yourself, about others, and about the world around you, right? And whether you realize that's where they came from, or whether you know where they came from or not, you've lived through it, you saw it, you heard it, and it just got filed away. It got stuck away somewhere inside that brain, but you kept building up into it. So every time you go back into something that brings you back to that place, you're triggered back into that same sensation because of the chemical fluctuation that happened at the occurrence. So these beliefs are not positive or good in nature necessarily, right? As you grow up, having a phobia like that's definitely not positive or good. They could, to this day, be leading you to believe things about yourself that you're not true. I'm afraid of hair. Would that be a true thing to say to yourself or no? The more it replays in your life, the more you go through the action or reaction caused by the belief, the more it begins to become a stronghold in your life, and it feels like something you'll never be able to let go of. Can you see any strongholds in your own life? Do you see things going on in your life that present as patterns? They happen over and over, seemingly to you. And no matter what you've tried to make them stop, it seems to cream back in and continue, or you might say it starts all over again, like you thought you had it under control and it just started all up again. Things you thought you'd gotten rid of or moved on from come back with a vengeance. Here's an example of this. I had a couple of clients recently that were just blocked from pretty much everything, both stating the same kind of things. They just hated life. They hated the things around them. Really struggling dealing with people, being around people, weren't interested in anything, just super, super frustrated. And what ended up emerging as we were going through, one of the things I help people learn how to do is feel that chemical fluctuation, and we use that as part of a clearing process. So you can feel when you get a good hit of oxytocin or dopamine, the higher level chemicals, or a good hit of cortisol or adrenaline. You can tell the difference in your system, and your brain knows the difference. So we are going through this process, and part of the process is saying your own name. I am, and then stating your name. And it gives us a little bit of information about the person, especially when they say their name. And instead of feeling good, all of a sudden they get hit with a rapid heart rate, increase in heat inside their body. They'll say like they feel like they're being pressed down or weighed against. One lady said her palms started sweating. And in order to get past that barrier, we literally had to clear them of their own name, clear the resistance to hearing their own name. How interesting is it, do you think? I mean, this is so bizarre to me. Going through your day, going through the course of your life, how many times a day does somebody call your name? What would happen if you worked in a situation where you heard your name every time somebody walked through your office door? And you started having a raise in your heart rate, sweaty palms, you felt like somebody was mashing down on you? What would that do to your life? How would that make you feel? So clearing their names was a huge thing for them, clearing that out of their subconscious. And it actually changed way more than just what the apparent was. The length and the things that helped these people with was actually pretty phenomenal and amazing. So no matter what you've tried to make these things stop and they creep back in and continue, there are ways to change it. And that's what I help people with. I want you to know, if you have a stronghold in your life that originally had nothing to do with you, you can feel a sense of it if you get really, really aware. And you don't even have to get really, really aware if you just become aware of it. And I had strongholds in my life I had no idea were even there. I had no idea why I was struggling the way I was. I struggled and fought for over 40 years, issues that I took consequences for, that not only did I have not control over, they had nothing originally to do with me. Had nothing to do with me. What I found out later in later years was that I actually don't remember my childhood. I have no memory of it at all. And it's the things that were locked in that were keeping me away from getting to what I wanted to in life. So if you have evidence of anything like this in your own life, you're in the right place. Some examples of this might be an addiction, weight issues, either too heavy, or you're not eating and you have the opposite of that, so bulimia, anorexia kind of idea, negative self-talk, poor self-esteem, a lack of personal drive or ambition, fear, anxiety, depression. How about just confusion about your life, right? And that's just to name a few. I'm sure you can come up with a ton more. So let me introduce myself. My name is Christy Mattoon. And this is basically my story. There was 10 years of a crazy cycle that for me culminated with hearing 3 words over and over that just absolutely stopped me in my tracks. These words were a subconscious thought. They came out of my mind. I had no idea where they came from, but it was something I said to myself all of the time, and I tried not to pay attention to it. I had no idea why I was saying it to myself, but it was very natural, and I'd never heard myself say anything else. I heard other people say differently about me all of the time, but their different words were not in my subconscious, and they were not a real belief in my head. So what is the subconscious mind, and how does this work? Your system of beliefs come from past experiences, and that can be really confusing, especially if you don't realize what's going on or why in your life. Your past experience is stored in your subconscious mind. We're going to talk about that more. Below the level of consciousness, it stores memories which become your beliefs and gives you the reason you act the way that you do. Sometimes if you're caught in a home of negative self-talk, it comes from those past experiences. Your thoughts, beliefs, and memories are the basis for your actions and reactions to each situation in your life. You either act now or you react. And you get to choose. It's a choice you get to make. And it's really crazy when all of a sudden you realize that's a choice. Let's talk about the mind for a second. The mind is located outside of the brain, not in relation to the body. And it gives you new information. It's those aha moments, kind of the original ideas, things you've never really thought about before, thinking of new original thoughts. And basically it's your mind, will, and emotions. And what we call this is the soul. Your mind, will, and emotions are what you call the soul. Your brain is a processor. It processes information. It's a storage locker. It stores information. It also runs your physical body function, and that includes everything physical body. It has so many other functions that we're discovering. They really don't know exactly how it works or how it runs your physical body. We just know that it does. Let's talk about the subconscious and conscious mind. Where are these located, first of all? It's not defined. Did you know that? I was listening to a broadcast the other day that had a bunch of neuroscience people, scientists, pathologists, anthropologists, physiologists, psychologists, psychiatrists. All of these folks were in there discussing this topic. And basically what they came up with, and none of them jointly agreed where these are located. Right? Are they in the brain? If you take apart the brain and look through the brain, can you find a subconscious mind or a conscious mind? Right? By definition, it's kind of just a concept, right? And I forget who talks about the subconscious mind as a concept. It might have been Freud, I'm not sure. but it's talked about like it's a concept. But either way, they're really part of the electrical circuitry that runs and regulates your physical body. So things that you have in your subconscious mind affect what goes on in your physical body. Same with the conscious mind. A dictionary definition of conscious mind is aware of and responding to one's surroundings, awake, having knowledge of something, aware. Okay, so you're aware and awake when you're in your conscious mind. You know what's going on around you. It's all about your environment. You get that through your 5 senses. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is the part of the mind of which one is not fully aware, but which influences one's actions and feelings. So your subconscious mind, you're not aware of it, but it influences your actions and feelings. The subconscious mind holds on to beliefs, thoughts, spoken words, emotional value, impressions, pictures, smells, sensations. These become your memories, and it becomes a reality of what many people think about themselves. Your subconscious mind will dictate what you think about yourself. It becomes the reason for what we do and don't do in our lives. So have you ever heard of neural pathways or neuroplasticity? You'll hear neuroscience, right? Neuroscientists talk about this. Psychiatrists talk about this a lot. These are created to memories that you have. It's created to situations that go on in your life. The ones that are accessed the most are the ones that get strong, and they become the strongholds in your life. I spelled that wrong right there. So within that, that's how you create your life. That's how you pull in what you have around you based on these neural pathways that you're creating. Here's the reality. Your conscious mind controls only 5% of your daily thinking. Think about that for a second. Your daily thinking activity is only 5% of your conscious mind. And your conscious mind is that part that's aware of your surroundings, that pulls in your environment. The other 95% is from your subconscious. 95% of your daily thinking is from your subconscious mind. So if you're thinking out of your subconscious mind, you're not actually thinking. You're digging into a storage locker of past events, past issues, past traumas, past things, and pulling that forward into your conscious mind and trying to deal with it as though it's going on currently when it may not be, and it probably isn't. If your subconscious thinking comes from trauma, pain, bad thoughts, beliefs, or memories of any kind, and it's 95% of your perception about the world, about yourself, these negative pathways are the ones that you go to the most. What kind of life is that creating for you? What do you think? Here's another story about a client of mine who thought she had to burp all the time in order to release energy or change the way she felt internally. And it sounds kind of weird, but I've ran into a few people that have this issue where they burp to release energy. And as I was working with her, what I found out was that she wants to coach. She wants to be in front of people. She wants to, help people and create with people. So I told her, I said, you might want to think about this burping thing. Let's think about it for a second in the tenses of it as a physiological reaction to something. Burping, right? Why are you burping? Do you have something in your stomach? Did you eat something that's causing gas? It's producing that gas that you're expelling? Because that's what a burp is. And she sat there and looked at me really strange. And she goes, no, it just happens whenever I'm releasing energy or releasing something or having like an emotional thing going on. I was like, well, let's do this balance on it and see if we can shift that, because that's going to be rough to be standing in front of people if you're just going to start burping. And she agreed with that. So we did a balance. What we ended up finding out was during this balance, she actually accessed an old memory of this 3-year-old that in order to get attention would produce physical ailments. Her little 3-year-old, when she was 3, she realized in order to get attention, she had to do something to produce a physical ailment in order to get her attention. And that's where that burping came in. That followed her from 3 years old all the way up. She's older than I am. She's like almost, I think she said mid-50s. How do you think that affects a person's life when something like that follows you your whole lifetime? And she felt like that was really part of her. The next handful of releases we did during a session, not one burp, not one noise. It was the craziest thing to watch. And she was just stunned. It was just gone. right? So you can have physiological responses to different stimuluses that will follow you through your lifetime because of things that you think or things that you think you need to do. And you might not realize it, right? Because that's that 5% and that 95%. Yeah, and just like this slide says, what kind of life do you think that person had? Look inside your own life. Don't get emotionally involved, so take an outsider's look in. But see if you notice where this could apply to you. Do you see any incidents of anything like this in your life? And burping is pretty extreme. You may have that. You may have something else. But take a look at it. The difference between subconscious change tools and traditional tools such as affirmations, talk therapy, positive thinking, willpower, reading self-help books, making vision boards. How many of you done that? I love making vision boards. Writing in your journal, I still do that. Visualizing is a big part of my day. These are all predominantly limited to your conscious mind at the level of awareness. Did you know that? That's why in talk therapy, most people have such a hard time doing anything. Because you're sitting there, let's think about that for a second. You're sitting there talking through the issue, and in talking through the issue, what are you really doing? You're recreating neuroplasticity to it. You might get an understanding of it. You might come to some consensus about it, but you're literally creating more neuroplasticity to that issue the more you talk about it and the more you keep going into it. So sometimes for people that revs up the problem instead of solving it. I know with me it did. 8 years of therapy that accumulated into absolutely nothing but a couple of phrases. The phrases I got from my doctor after 8 years of therapy were keep your head on straight and take the next step. Those were my pearls for 8 years of work. So while those tools can be helpful, and like I said, I love vision boards, I journal still, I visualize things all the time, they are seriously limited in their effectiveness to clearing subconscious issues. If the conscious mind processes were all that you needed to change the subconscious mind, we would already be doing that. And we would be doing everything we wanted in our lives. Isn't that true? So great tools, but they take their time. You can make them touch the subconscious mind by repetition. So the process of habituation, doing it over and over and over and over. When trying to clear out negative input from the subconscious, there are easier, faster, more efficient, effective ways of doing it, and that is what Mind Rewire is. So back to subconscious belief. Remember, that's the part of the mind which one is not fully aware, but which influences one's actions and feelings. That's your subconscious mind. So what is a subconscious belief? Right? It comes from the subconscious mind. Let's think about exactly what that is. And now we're talking on a physiological level here. So from the mind, so that place outside of the brain, you're thinking new thoughts and having new experiences, into the brain, into the storage locker, what happens? You create neuroplasticity. You're literally creating matter. Every time you think a thought, it comes into your brain. It's a protein and a neuron bond that's formed. Every time you think that thought, every time you think the same thought, another bond is created. Basically, what you're doing is creating a chain that's formed on your brain. On a scan, it's described as looking like a tree branch. And that's by the work of Dr. Caroline Leaf. And she says the more you grow it, the bigger it gets, and it can dig into different places in your brain and touch different areas. Right? Really super interesting, which is why when we're clearing subconscious stuff and taking these chains apart, sometimes it touches areas. We'll take something apart that's based on one issue or what the person thinks is, just one part of the problem that they're having, but it touches other problems too, and it wipes those out also. Why does that happen? Because that tree branch grows into different areas of your brain. So you can think of it as a loop, and it's actually been called a loop before. A loop of negativity or a loop of positivity in your brain, right? You've heard that expression. Think of everyday experiences as input for your brain and your actions and thoughts as output. A feedback loop is being formed. And the old cliche about computer software, you remember back in high school, and they don't do this now, but years ago, right? We're talking back in the 80s, when we actually had to program our own computers, and it was garbage in, garbage out. If you put garbage in the system, you're going to get garbage out of the system. This applies to all feedback loops. If you put garbage in your brain, you're going to get garbage in your life. If you put good stuff in your brain and your brain is nice and clean, you've effectively renewed your mind, you're going to get good stuff back out. How about your food supply? If you eat garbage, you're going to get sick. You're going to express disease. You're going to get garbage out. And I'm talking by garbage food, I'm talking about the chemical stuff, the frankenfoods, right, that are in the grocery store. If you're eating good, healthy, real food that your body can actually use and assimilate, you're going to express health. You're going to get something healthy back out, right? So toxic experiences shape the brain quite differently from healthy ones. And they shape your reality. They shape your life. They shape the things around you differently too. They shape your actions and reactions to issues, to people, to your job, to your husband, to your kids, differently than they would otherwise. So here's the idea of the loop. I used to use this actually in a class that I taught. You can think of the loop as these negative thoughts that are inward and collapsing. And if you look at the little spiraling circle there, it's spiraling in, it's dark, it's looming, it's kind of forbearing. It digs itself deeper and deeper every time it plays in your mind, and it just holds you captive. How many times have you had a thought like that you would start thinking it and your brain just runs away with you? You end up in fights in your own head, maybe against people, against yourself. You end up with these weird, crazy storylines that you start telling yourself, and it just goes on and on and on. On the other side of that, positive thoughts are outward and expressive, right? So it's light, it's airy, it's colorful, it feels better to look at. And guess what? It digs itself deeper and deeper every time it plays in your mind. And it holds you captive the same way, except in a positive space where you feel outward and expressive and lovely and open and light and airy. And you create the same storylines to these, these things that you start thinking, but instead of being negative, you start creating positive stories to it. And you get to choose which ones of those you're doing. So it seems like common sense, right? Think positive or think negative. You feel yucky this way, you feel better this way, but we get caught in those loops because it's caught in your subconscious mind. So neuroscience has joined the forces with genetics to reveal that right down to the level of DNA, the feedback loop that embraces mind and body is profoundly changed by the input processed by the brain. If you've already processed this input and it's in there, your feedback loop is going to kick back out what you've got in there. The cool part is we can take it apart and change it. All right, so how does it work? Your brain, think of it like a storage locker. It collects all this information and it files it away for later use. So when something happens that takes you into a space where you don't know, your brain starts seeking stability and going, okay, where do I know information about this? It finds the information it has and it kicks it out into your system. If that information was something negative that's dripping in cortisol and adrenaline and neuroepinephrine, like all those chemicals that kind of make you feel lucky and queasy, guess what you're going to start feeling like? If my name was something that got yelled all the time when I was in trouble and I never heard it any other time, or when something bad was going on, and now I hear my name called and all of a sudden I go right back into that bad feeling, oh God, she called my name again. Guess what's going to happen? So most of us actually aren't even filing things away. Your memories are just constantly like, right, you can't get your brain clear. People a lot of times will call me asking for help because they can't get into their meditation and they're frustrated trying to meditate, but we know it's good to meditate, but they can't do it because they can't quiet their mind. Those tracks just won't stop. And it's because we're not even filing stuff away. It's just left all out and flying around in disarray. And I really think some of that has to do with our food supply and all the chemicals we're eating, right? So coming at all of this from different angles can be really profound and actually very important. So what does this kind of thing actually do in your life? It causes mayhem, chaos, disorder, frustration, physical illness, depression, anxiety, confusion, anger. Where does any of this apply to you? patterns, thoughts, memories. Can you name anything in your life that might be a subconscious issue? Do you see patterns you've been repeating? Any negative thoughts or phrases that you say over and over and over to yourself? Is there a place in your life where you'd like to change? Where you've tried to change but you can't quite make it happen? So what your subconscious does basically is that it reminds you of where you've been. It doesn't know time. So whether it happened when you were 5, 8, 12, 15, 23, it doesn't base its judgment of where it's getting its information on from your age. So as that 5-year-old was having an issue and locking into whatever it was locking into, at 39, you're still using the same information that 5-year-old took in. And if you're living through a lens of what happened when you were 5, and your brain's not realizing that you're now 39, 49, 59, I've worked with some folks that are up in their 70s. And it's the same scenario over and over and over. They had no idea that it was locked in their subconscious mind, and that thing that kept making them angry, that thing that they kept struggling with, was something that seriously was part of their body. It was their neuroplasticity. The cool part, like I said before, is it's as easy to let go of as it was to create it. So like I said, nobody will say indefinitely where the subconscious mind sits, but your subconscious beliefs come from your subconscious mind. These thoughts, beliefs, and memories are based on your neuroplasticity. So every time that protein and neuron come together, they make the bond. You're creating neuroplasticity. These lay in the neural pathways. Positive or negative, you create based on your thoughts and experience. Positive or negative, it happens every time you think a thought at any age, okay? This becomes your beliefs and memories that can affect you for the rest of your life. You know, just like a client I had named Lawrence, he was physically a mountain of a man. This guy was huge, he was strong, he had no confidence in himself. This big old dude just like couldn't move in his life, couldn't get anything done because he just had no and couldn't figure it out, no confidence. Why would a man who was built like this have no confidence? So we started working on trying to get to the bottom of that and clear that out for him. And actually what he figured out in the process was he just didn't love himself. And what he came to after a couple of sessions, I believe I did 3 or 4 sessions with this man, and all of a sudden he was just a joy to talk to, a joy to be around. The anger was gone, the frustration was gone, and he could actually sit there and talk about how much he loved who he was. And it wasn't an ego thing, it wasn't a pride thing. He actually fell in love with himself for the first time. All right, so it's a big deal when you've got this kind of stuff locked inside your brain and you're just not even realizing it. What's going on in your life right now that you can look at and say, I wish I would quit doing that? Why does this keep happening to me? How does this happen? Do you ever ask yourself that? How does this happen? Why did this happen again? And you can't stop doing it, even though maybe you know it's bad or it's wrong or it doesn't feel good. It's not getting you anywhere. You just can't stop doing it. Do you see repeated cycles, patterns, thoughts that are negative, harmful, demeaning, beliefs that are not realistic or make no sense? Do you see that anywhere in your life? Are you aware of it? Can you point it out? Do you know where it comes from in your history? And not that you even really need to, which is amazing and cool about it. Do you know, though, the thoughts that you're having that don't benefit you? Because we can take it from either approach. If you know where it comes from, we can go back in history and take care of it that way. If you don't know where it came from, if you just know this is what's not benefiting me, we come at it from that angle. The beliefs that you formed as a child and hold on to like they're truth, but in reality, they're just somebody else's mess. That's what we want to get rid of. So let me demystify a few lies for you. The first one is the problem is that most people want a process. They think they have to have a process. We're hardwired to believe there needs to be a process. What if there wasn't? What if this is just part of your body's physiology and you just don't know how to use it? Isn't that an interesting question? The next lie is, it took a while to create and it's going to take a while to undo. it doesn't take a while to undo. It takes a thought. And it takes knowing how putting your body into a whole brain state, and it knows, your body just knows what to do. Let me show you how to do this. It's the coolest thing once you realize how easy this is. The next lie is that, like the good doc says, Rome wasn't made in a day. My words to that are, you're not Rome. And I've had a few people tell me that, we'll be working and chugging away on something, and I think they get tired, and it's another subconscious thought that they're like, okay, I just need to stop for a minute. And we really haven't really done anything yet, but they're starting to get nervous because they start to feel those chemical fluctuations in their system. But you're not Rome, and this is way easier to undo than it was to do. So once we get started, we're going to roll right through it. I just hold on to you and we just go for it, all right? And know that I'm there through the whole process. Whether you're doing my 8-week course, you have access to me via email. And if you're actually working with me personally, you get the 8-week course too, but we're also working through these issues on Skype. So I want to tell you a secret. This is not your fault. Your life is a mess, maybe, because of the thoughts and beliefs that are stuck in your subconscious mind, but you had little or no idea. You do have to be 100% responsible for it at this point. It is your life. It is your stuff. But you can also take 100% authority of it. All right? You probably have consequences going on at this point, and it might be a mess to clean up, but just know it's not your fault. So here's an incidence of consequences to clean up. If you have this issue with eating where you just can't stop, and you're so glued to the food, you're so hardwired into the French fries and the hamburgers and the fast food joints, right? The sweet food, maybe the sweet stuff. What's the consequence of that? Weight, disease, diabetes, right? So there's your mess to clean up. But it's easy once we get the subconscious mind lined up. Sometimes we derailed it so hard that we've actually wrecked out organs and body parts, and it gets a little bit tougher. Some of that stuff isn't recoverable, but if we can get most of it back, what would you say to that? What a cool idea, huh? So how do you undo it? That's the easy part. I teach you how to feel with the system that regulates, or feel the system that regulates the chemical fluctuations of your body. You can actually feel the chemical fluctuation from thought to thought, from issue to issue. If you're paying attention, once we start doing that, that's when we start moving out the subconscious thoughts, the stuff that you don't want. The same way we can actually input the things that you do want. So we can rewrite the patterns, we can rewrite the neuroplasticity, you can rewrite the rest of your life. I teach you how to get into a whole brain state, to the issue, to the trauma, to the thing, to the feeling, to the emotion, right? So, and this says on tomorrow's video, we're going to talk about a whole brain state. So make sure you come back and look at that. It's the same idea that Brain Gym uses, right? It's the same idea they use with butterfly hugs. That whole brain state is a powerful way of clearing the subconscious. So back to my story, here's what I found out. Remember the 3 words I said I was saying to myself? I'm going to share those with you, what they were. I, to this day, can only speculate where they came from and how this happened, based on actually my siblings' testimony, but it's fine. Gratitude and forgiveness are in the process for a reason. Grace and mercy go a long way. I really, really believe that. But the 3 words I kept saying to myself were, I hate you. It was so pervasive. It took over everything in my life. It was always aimed at me. Apparently, I had learned this super well, and I translated it into I hate my life over time. Even when I had 2 great kids, I loved my kids. I loved my job. My husband was amazing. I had a beautiful home. I had a couple of really cool dogs, and I hated, and it wasn't that I hated them. I hated the air I breathed. It was crazy. I was even surrounded by a community of awesome people who really had no idea, because I was able to smile through it. And actually what I did was I ate through it. So I ended up gaining a ton of weight, made myself crazy sick, and had to literally walk myself backwards out of that whole mess. I had a huge mess to clean up, a lot of consequences from that one. For me, nothing ever made sense until I got literally so sick. A doctor actually told me, this is going to end if you don't knock it off. Get it under control. So I got sick and tired of being sick and tired finally. I started reading, taking courses. I hired a personal trainer. He actually saved my life. I watched tons of videos, anything I could get my hands on that would give me a better way or a different way to do what I was doing. I, at this point, have more certifications in different things than I care to count. I've taken more courses, paid out more money than I even want to think about. Some of them I actually did the courses without getting the certification. I just wanted the knowledge. I wanted to know how it worked, why it worked. What were you doing, what you were doing? Why were you saying what you were saying? How did you make the effects that you make for the people you're making them for? I used to go to different psychology doctors that touted different techniques that they said could help. Everything from regular talk therapy. And when I was doing that one, it was actually because at that point I was kind of insane. Found out what they thought was bipolar is what they told me. And realized later that that wasn't the case at all. But 8 years of that culminated to me realizing that he had no idea either. But it led me to people who did tapping, who did energy work, things like Reiki, who did prayer, who did meditation, who did EMDR, brain integration processes and techniques, so many other things. And you can go to my website for a list of the things that I did mention that I have taken and have been certified or at least taken their courses on. Energy psychology protocols. I'm just like, the list is just endless. And PSYCH-K, Splankna, right? I've pretty much done I did do all of those things. So this is how it works. What it has turned into for me is a good prayer and a relationship with God, and knowing how to balance anything from the standpoint of the matter that's created in your brain. It is literally how your system works. It's how the physiology was created. Do you know how powerful you really are? Did you know that your physiology can clear your own subconscious mind? It's literally the way you were created. You've probably heard this before, but let me take your hand. I want to take your hand and I want to show you how. Remember, there's no fault here. There's no condemnation. Things happened. A lot of times people will hear stuff like this, and I've had quite a few people tell me this actually. They don't want to tell people about what I do because it's embarrassing that they see. And one of my clients says that an hour with me is like 10 hours with her old therapist. One of my clients, a Wilda from Massachusetts, tells me that. And she doesn't want to tell her friends or her people what I do because it's embarrassing that she had to go to this extent. But now she can do it herself. Now she has that good prayer. Now she has conversations with God. Her subconscious mind has gotten her into a totally different place in her life. And while we've been working together, she had some huge traumas happen to her. And she's been able just to keep walking and get through them. All right, so don't beat yourself up. There's no condemnation here. You got caught literally with a brain full of non-benefiting thoughts and beliefs and memories, and they're probably not yours. What you need to know is that the negative thoughts, beliefs, and memories can be taken apart. Right, I keep saying that. They can be taken apart. You can store them and put them in the proverbial box up on the shelf or get rid of them. Right, like God says, throw it in the ocean or throw it as far as the east is from the west. Let's get rid of it. The sea of forgetfulness, right? You can create new thoughts, beliefs, and patterns, and we can stick them in your subconscious mind. I can show you how. That'll benefit your life. They'll benefit the path that you want to be on. God gave you everything that you need to change, everything. You have everything on board to heal your mind and your body. Did you know that? Do you believe it? It doesn't matter where you start, whether you start with the physical and exercising, whether your nutrition and cleaning out the chemical mess that's been built up, the toxic load inside your body, or whether you start with the subconscious mind and you start with renewing of the mind and fixing that end of it. One will affect the other. The work of one, the work that you do in one will affect the others. We have a country right now full of people, full of angry people, that are out of control with eating problems and illnesses and depression and diabetes and all kinds of crazy stuff. From that eating, they're eating chemicals that they were told were healthy. You're eating food that were shown on commercials and told this is okay to eat. Like, we really believed if I eat this, that's going to actually make me healthy. But it's full of chemicals that are making you sick, and most people still have no idea. And that even is caught in your subconscious mind. If you're struggling with food and with illness and trying to get rid of the stuff that you know you shouldn't be eating, did you know that can be caught in your subconscious mind from watching all those commercials as a kid? So of course, that's only one piece of the problem. Some of it could be from actual traumas you sustain, the issues of life. And it may be some of it from other things, but that's why I created Mind Rewire. That's why I've taken programs and paid for all the information from people like the Association of Comprehensive Energy Psychology, from Splonkna, from PSYCH-K, from Associative Awareness Technique. I've worked with people all over the country at this point. I have clients all over the world. And this is why I want to bring this to you, because it is way easier to do than we've been led to believe. To clear the subconscious thoughts, get you back to zero, right? Kind of the idea of Joe Vitale, I think his name is Dr. Lin Hugh, and Ho'oponopono, zero state. How crazy is it that you can do it so quickly? I want you to go to mindrewire.com. That's my website. Take a look. See what you think. You can order Mind Rewire from there if you want to. It's an 8-week course. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. But from all the things that I've learned, studied, and I've brought together the best parts into a simple, quick, efficient method that anyone can learn and incorporate into a practice in their life. It's easy. It's not as hard as we've been led to believe. I've put all of this into a course just for you called Mind Rewire, Tools for Subconscious Change, to give you a method, a practice, a process, and a new mentality towards your life and how all of this can work. The goal is self-sufficiency. I want you to know how to operate inside of your own life, how to be able to do this for yourself, so when things happen, you can clear it out, not let it build up. How do you clear the subconscious mind? The quickest, most reliable way that gives you the longest lasting results and be able to keep doing it easily whenever the need arises. Mind Rewire incorporates the use of the quickest, most effective, long-lasting protocols I've ever used. I took the easiest parts and funneled them all down. It uses the nature of how the brain works. It works by building and taking apart neuroplasticity, simple and easy. How do I know it works? Because I have testimony after testimony after testimony. People calling me back and saying, oh my goodness, can we do that again? Let's work on this part. Let's do that part. I had a young lady in my office not too long ago, and we were working on actually something else, something muscular actually. We were working on her shoulders and her hip flexibility, and she just kind of told me in passing, she goes, I keep having this weird thing going on where I literally just freeze. And she said she was just kind of freezing. She goes, sometimes I'm inside my own body and I'm frozen. She goes, sometimes I feel like I freeze, like I can't move, but I'm not even in my body. And I said the word disassociating, and she looked at me really weird, and she goes, yeah, I've heard it called that before. And I was like, what do you think about that? And she goes, I don't know why it keeps happening, but it's getting worse all of a sudden, and it's really starting to scare me, and it's scaring my boyfriend. And it's just awful. I said, okay. I was like, play with me for a second. I've never really done this kind of work with her. We always did muscle stuff from my background in neurokinetic work. And so I said, just play with me for a minute and just kind of let me see what we can do here. I put her in a whole brain state, put her in a balance, kind of took her back with some muscle testing to a couple of different things through her mind. She was pulling up thoughts, coming up with some ideas, and just had her sit there and simmer in it for a second. She never got emotional. She never got upset. I said, when you feel a shift, let me know. She finally felt something. She actually kind of jerked. Her body shifted. And now reports that she has not had one of those incidences since. She hasn't frozen since. Still doesn't really know what caused it, why it was going on, but now it's gone. How cool is that? A person totally disassociating, and now Now she's fully present. Crazy cool how easy this is to do. So here's Mind Rewire Tools for Subconscious Change. This is my 8-week course. Module 1 is Great Beginnings, Awareness and Knowing Your Why. Your why actually turns into seeds that we can seed into your subconscious mind. I walk you through all of it. Module 1, I've been told, is really heady and big, and it takes longer than a week. So now I leave this course open for longer than 8 weeks. It's pretty much just open all the time so people can get back into it once they've gone through it. Module 2 is learning the language of your body. So you're learning those chemical fluctuations, what to feel for, what they are, what you can do with them. Module 3 is about writing strong, clear statements. And again, those are more seeds we use for your subconscious mind. Module 4 is balancing in whole brain states. You actually learn how to balance and do this yourself and learn how to use those whole brain states. Module 5 is more on seeding the mind, how to use the things that you've come up with, the issues, how to balance an issue versus balancing a statement. Module 6 is epigenetics and an understanding. What is epigenetics? What does it mean? How did that affect your subconscious mind? It's very, very interesting when you start to get a handle on some of this stuff. Module 7 is taking authority. What would that sound like to you if you could take authority inside your own life? Right? Self-sufficiency right there. Guys, Module 8 is what's next. What is next? I don't know, because you got to go through the first 7 modules first. Let's see where you get to and see what it looks like. Okay, what's next? We just kind of go into some different options, different things you can do. We talk about the quantum idea a little bit. How far can you take this? I fully believe that God made us so much more powerful than we have any knowledge of, that what we're living in, this creation that was made for us, what we've turned it into is not what it was intended. From the earth itself to our physical bodies, to our souls, we've altered so many things away from the original expression. Getting back to that could be such a profound movement. It is crazy amazing to me. You can change your neuroplasticity. If you have negative thoughts that are destructive and driving any of your issues or disease, you can change them and see what symptoms change. This is what I tell everybody after we do some balances and do some work in a session. Step into tomorrow. Step into tomorrow. See what changes. What feels different? What looks different? How are you acting and reacting differently? Take notes. And then let's keep moving. It's powerful, powerful, powerful when your subconscious mind releases a stronghold that's on your life. So, you can't speak glory and hate at the same time. It's one or the other, right? The goal is to eliminate the negative and insert the positive. If it's something that's stuck in your subconscious mind, no matter what it's related to, you do have the power to change it. You get the choice. That's what Mind Rewire Tools for Subconscious Change is all about. Here again is that list, the 8-week course, 8 modules, Great Beginnings, Knowing Your Why, learning the language of your body. For a lot of people, that module 2 is kind of freaky. When they realize what they can feel inside their own system and start tapping into, it changes. That by itself changes things because you start realizing your own power. Module 3 is writing clear, strong statements. Module 4 is balancing in whole brain states. Module 5 is seeding the mind. Module 6 is about the epigenetics and an understanding. Module 7 is taking authority. I love that part. Take authority. Module 8 is what's next. So there's 2 ways you can work with me, and if you're interested. The first one is through Mind Rewire, the course. It's online. Do it yourself. It's pretty cool how fast and efficient the process is when you understand how to do it. The second way is in a private session. With the course for only a small time, there's a big special going on where I'm going to combine the 2. A lot of times you can pick one or the other, or you can, combine both together. But for a small time, I'm going to offer a special price where we're combining the 2. So you get the best of both. This world has gone nuts. Have you been watching the news lately? From the stuff that's going on the planet environmentally, as far as like the earthquakes and the fire, like it's just crazy right now. To the people and the issues with politics and the you versus me stuff that goes on. Who or what do you do to steer clear and stay in patterns of health? How do you steer clear of that stuff? Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? How do you steer clear of those things? So if you're ready to start today, go here. This will start you on a fast track with the 8-week course at mindrewire.com/order -now. If you want to just contact me and ask a few questions, I'm more than happy to answer those for you at Christy at mindrewire.com. Just be aware if you email me. I get a ton of emails, guys. So if you start emailing me and I don't respond right away, please be patient. If you're ready to start today and you want personal private help, go here, book a meeting with me. It's a 30-minute free meeting, but it'll start you on a fast track to subconscious change. So book that meeting. It's 30 minutes that could change your life. In that 30 minutes, we're going to talk about what it's going to take, what you need to do, what the difference could be. All right, so if you're ready to start and you're like, no, this is definitely something I want to do, you like what I've said here, you're curious about knowing more, go there and book an appointment. That little link right there is a link to my schedule desk. Here again is those tools for subconscious change. This is what the 8-week course looks like. If you get on with me now at that Mind Rewire, meetme.so Mind Rewire, there is a special offer going on to do both the course and working with me privately. And then there'll be opportunity to keep working after that. So go ahead and jump on one of those places if you just want to look more and check it out. Keep coming back here to YouTube. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like it, subscribe to it. Go over to Facebook. Like my Facebook page. We've got Mind Rewire on Facebook now. You'll see some of the same videos going over there. And I really hope to be talking to you soon. And again, my name is Christy Mattoon. And blessings and peace. I hope this finds you well and you've enjoyed this. And I hope to be talking to you soon.